code, which we've actually had since probably around 82, was updated, and in June of 2019 finally got through a bunch of court cases, is now in effect, and all the unincorporated areas and 9 jurisdictions were already opted into the pesticide code at that time. 10 jurisdictions, including Kensington, were not yet opted in. We did approach every jurisdiction that was not opted in to inquire if you are interested in opting in, help you through the process, give you information. Between June and August of this summer, the city of Gaithersburg, the town of Garrett Park, the town of Somerset, and the town of Washington Grove have all opted in. The remaining 6 jurisdictions are Chevy Chase Village, Laytonsville, Kensington, Poolsville, City of Rockville, and town of Chevy Chase. Obviously, the largest jurisdiction of that would be the City of Rockville, but then Poolsville and Kensington have large areas. Chevy Chase Village, Laytonsville, and town of Chevy Chase are not quite as large. All of them are in some form of discussion. Laytonsville, I know of no discussion. Poolsville is similar to Kensington, that we had 1 meeting and then pandemic happened. City of Rockville is moving a little farther along, and Chevy Chase Village, town of Chevy Chase, and your city, Kensington, are all in discussions about whether they wish to opt in. The way it works when opting in, it's much like any of our other environmental codes, is that there is no burden to the jurisdiction opting in unless you wish to have additional burden, which most do not. So the county takes care of all of the education and all of the enforcement of the law. Our first year is really focused on education of everyone about the law. It is a big change. It allows for organic pesticides to be used, but synthetic pesticides cannot be used in lawns, playgrounds, mulch recreation areas, or the grounds of private child care facilities. There are some limited exemptions, but for the most part, synthetic pesticides cannot be used for cosmetic treatments like weeds and fungicides, things like that. So we're here as a resource as you all consider whether you wish to take up opting into it. Again, there should be no additional burden on Kensington unless you wish to have that burden.
And how is the county, have they figured out how to enforce this, the law? How
Sure.
are they doing?
Yeah, we're taking it obviously one step at a time, but just like all of our other environmental codes, we can issue a warning, or we can issue a citation. The civil fine is $50. It's not, there's no financial incentive for the county to issue fines. We really want to focus on compliance. We want people to understand the significance of the law, the importance of the law, cooperate about being good neighbors and not shortcutting the law. We can issue those citations. We're waiting, I shouldn't say we're waiting, but we've yet to have a second violation so far. Most of our violations so far have been either unfounded in that it was not actually a violation. Somebody, might have seen something being sprayed or just saw a little sign out, and it turns out that the company or individual was not violating the law. We've had probably 2 where it's been evident that we have enough evidence to believe they're in violation. One of those came back that it was just the material was on their truck for something in another county. And then the one violation that we do have, direct evidence where the person walked up to the company, asked what they were spraying, took pictures, etc. And all of the companies or individual property owners have received letters from us about what we have seen or observed, and we've gotten replies back for the most part that they were not violations. So we've yet to cross that bridge of having a second violation. And when we do, that's when we expect that we would be more than likely to issue the civil citation with the fine.
Okay. Council, do you have any questions for Mary?
I do. So Mary, thank you. I just was curious how many, I know you just said there were only a few violations, but how many property owners, residents do you feel are probably in non-compliance right now throughout the county, or even just take Kensington, for example? Is it widespread? And I guess it gets to my main point is it, are you working with the businesses, such as, we have a hardware store here that sells chemicals and fertilizers, and is it that the general practice is already shifted to using what's would be considered in compliance, or will this take a huge shift in behavior? And are you working with the businesses? And I guess my other question is, if it's a company coming, like a mosquito company, to spray your yard or whatever, and they're not in compliance, is it the resident and the homeowner that's actually accountable, or is it the company? So just, if you don't mind sifting through a few of those details, I'd really appreciate it.
Sure. One provision of the law is that any company that sells products that are banned for these uses have to have signs up at their location. So, for example, if I was to walk into a nursery and they do not sell any of the banned chemicals, they don't require signage. But if they do, they require signage. We visited every location and gave them signs right when the pandemic was happening. Basically, when everybody was sort of sold out of toilet paper is exactly when we were going in. So some of the locations may not have put their signs up. We do inspect them. We have been inspecting them and going back, but they're required to have signage. Now, the reality is, if you go to some of the big box stores, let me just say you walk into a Lowe's, there are shelves and shelves of things, lots of signage on those shelves. Our signs may not be noticed by someone that's in there, and they may not have the type of staff that are constantly aware of things. They might have turnover, they might have someone from another department coming over to help somebody out. I would say that the smaller hardware stores, the smaller nurseries, their staff are much more aware and educated about the law. I think that when you asked about whether it's a big shift in behavior, yes, it is a very big shift in behavior. Not for everyone. Some people never use these chemicals. It's not a big deal. But we are the first major jurisdiction in the United States to pass a law of this scale. There are some towns and cities throughout the country that have passed it that have a smaller populace that they're working with. But it is going to take a shift in behavior. I would say that some people may not be even aware that they are violating the law because of understanding what, I get folks who come and say, well, this has an herbicide in it, it's not a pesticide. And just there, shows that it's very difficult, because to me, I know that an herbicide is a pesticide. I know a fungicide's a pesticide. I know a rodenticide's a pesticide, but not everyone knows that. So I even get people saying, well, this is an herbicide. It's not a pesticide. I got a mailing saying I can't use pesticides, but I should be able to use an herbicide. So there's a shift in knowledge. We'll probably very soon have a very knowledgeable populace on what various pesticides are. But that's, some people were operating at that base level. Other folks, they're just, habituated. I grab this bag every year, I put it on my lawn in the spring, and weeds don't come up and it gets green. But what they don't realize is that it's an herbicide and a fertilizer mixed in a bag. So we've been working on educating people on what that is. So there may be some people that are not even aware they're in violation. And of course, we're always going to have people that violate laws. Oh, this is my backyard. Nobody's going to see it. I can just do this. I've got a big house that nobody's going to notice what I'm doing on my lawn. But actually knowing the numbers is relatively difficult. We did invest in a survey this spring after doing a lot of media, and that gave us a lot of information about what people know about the law. And we will hopefully be able to find resources to continue to survey within Montgomery County to make sure that people are understanding and coming along with this. We do believe, like all environmental laws, most people want to comply with laws. So it'd be no different than seatbelts. It's going to take a little while, but eventually I believe that everyone's going to get there, and one step at a time to try to really bring people along with understanding.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's, I think focusing on the education outreach is going to be really helpful, and whatever we can do, assuming, we we ultimately adopt this. I think it's, it'd be great to work together to get the word out. But for me personally, I think this is something we should be supporting.
Hey, Nate, can I double down on your first question, just because I didn't know if I heard the answer. Let's say I have a company, Mary, that comes by and sprays my yard, and the chemicals they're using are prohibited chemicals. Am I the property owner on the hook, or is it the vendor that's on the hook, or do we both receive some sort of citation or notice?
Yeah, you realized I didn't answer that part of Nathan's question. Thanks, Connor. It is both. Ultimately, it's both. We are going to focus most on the violation being the company, partly because these folks are licensed to do this by the state, and they should be fully aware of the law. If they are not, like, let's say it's a brand new company. Oh, we just started up. We came in from Fairfax County, Virginia. We just started providing services here. We didn't realize. Okay, you didn't realize that you've got your notice. Don't do it again. But for the most part, it's going to be the company. We can come after the property owner as well. But as I mentioned, it's a $50 fine. It's not a huge punishment, right? Financially, but it doesn't mean that we won't send a letter to that address to let them know that we're sending this violation to the company, or it might be addressed to the company and CC'd to the property owner. We've done that already. But ultimately, if it's a licensed company, they're the ones that sprayed the chemical.
And then the other question I had was, realizing the wonderful but Herculean effort that you guys are taking on education, especially dropping signs off all over the county, what has been the discussion around just banning the sale of these type of chemicals at garden stores and big box stores as a further step to getting them kind of out of the supply chain?
The way the law was written is we do not have that written into the law. Somebody could propose it. I think that some of the difficulty is that people cross borders to purchase things. For instance, a lot of folks, I went to a couple of stores with the signs that are near the border with other counties, and more of their business actually comes in from the adjacent county than from within Montgomery County. So, like a hardware store in Sandy Spring, they're selling more to Howard County residents than Montgomery County residents. A business that's closer to DC will get folks coming in from DC. So there is that challenge that it would be very difficult. I think it would be very difficult to try to get that implemented. But then again, I'm not a policy wonk. I can't speak to it. And also because the state regulates the licensing and sale through the state chemist, I'm not really sure that we can do that on a retail scale. I would imagine that, like, let's say within Kensington, it's possible that you might be able to do it. But again, I think that would require some questions of attorneys as to whether it would even be possible the way policy works within the state and county. I think the best thing to do is encourage them to reduce their sale. So for example, when I brought signs in, a few places, particularly a few nurseries, said, we're getting them off the shelves. We're just not going to sell them anymore because, the demand shouldn't be there, and we want to be as compliant as possible. We don't want to be responsible for people coming in, and then we're just telling them, well, but you can't actually use this. So.
Good. Thank you.
Sure. Tracy, you're muted.
Darren or Bridget, do you have any questions for Mary before we move to the audience? No? Darren?
I have a few.
Sure.
I mean, I remember when you came before the council in January or whenever that was. I think I said at the time, and I still don't use like anything on my yard, except my dogs. But I also remember the way the law was written, and maybe it's because you have only limited authority under state law to act as a county. but it just seemed overly complicated to me that you, homeowner can certainly go to Stroh-Snyder's and buy this product, and then you're forbidden from using it, but then there were exceptions that allowed you to use it, and I don't remember what they were right now because I didn't brush up on the flow chart, but it seemed like a complicated flow chart to, well, you can use this stuff if you are applying it for invasive species, for example, or bugs, or I don't remember what it was, but it just seemed complicated at the time. And my concern was that as the landscaping companies cease using this, that you're going to get homeowners applying it and maybe applying it too heavily. And so my preference here would be to wait for Law 2.0 when you've got some experience that says, we've learned how this law works. We've learned where we can make it easier to understand. I mean, I understand that a $50 fine is not particularly significant, but I also am a little bit disturbed that we already have people out there, with their cell phones or something, taking pictures and kind of, I hate to put it this way, but ratting out their neighbors for what it ends up not being a violation. And, I just feel like we ought to be careful about opting into a system that is imperfect, not because that's the way you designed it, but because that's the only way under state law you can act. And so I would prefer to wait for a change in state law to allow a broader action, such as banning the sale at the point of sale, or to see where else you can take the law at the county level.
I can respond to a few of those just a little bit. One is that the exemptions are limited. They are for a few select invasive species that are very uncommon in most lawns. So there's a short list, and it includes things like poison ivy too, which is not generally in people's lawns. It's not typically a lawn weed, but there's 4 specific invasive species. Most of them are what we call early detection rapid response species. They're very uncommon, so there are those exemptions. The other is I don't expect that Law 2.0 would be anywhere even proposed in the next several years, let alone happen in the next 5 to 8 years, unless the populace of Montgomery County really pushes for something. So I don't see that changing. And to your concern about neighbor on neighbor, ratting out types of things, it's really no different than any of our other environmental laws. So we don't expect a huge surgence in neighbors getting nasty with each other. If somebody's pouring something down a drain, we can get a call from a neighbor about that. If somebody is leaving their dog neglected in the backyard, a neighbor may report that. So it's really, we're not expecting a huge surge in causing some sort of problem among neighbors compared to any other environmental law that we have, whether it's noise, air quality, illegal dumping, illicit discharge. So I understand that there's the concern that there's something like that, but we don't really expect to have some sort of problem with that. Because again, we've got tons of environmental laws, and also our experience so far this year is that most people have been relatively kind about their reporting, that I saw something, I'm worried, I'm concerned, etc. And our response to it is typically not in such a way that somebody, and we also keep all complaints anonymous unless somebody requests to be, identified.
And so when you say that you don't see the Law 2.0 for, around 5, I don't remember the exact number that you used.
I just made up numbers.
I hear you. That suggests that we could continue to have Stroh-Snyder selling this to people. They learn before they apply it that now it's illegal to apply it for those reasons, and then they're stuck with a bag of weed and feed. It just seems like point of sale prohibitions are so much easier and more efficient to implement. And instead we're going to this system where it's illegal for both the landscaping company and the homeowner to apply it, and you're trying to enforce that just, to me, seems inefficient.
I understand
Can
that.
I jump in here really quickly and just say, I know that I think it's important to emphasize that what I'm perceiving is the real need for behavior change. And most of these products, I know from seeing, you can get online. I mean, banning point of sale, you're not going to stop people from going and getting them. You can order most of them on Amazon. So I guess if we're to contribute to the behavior change, I think I sympathize with those concerns, but I think that they'll get it if they want to be honest. If people want to get it, they'll be able to have access to it.
Well, and I agree with you, Nate. I guess I would imagine most sales, look, if somebody wants weed and feed and they're really motivated and they find out that Stroh-Snyder's bans it, yes, I hear you that they could go online and get it from China or whatever, through Alibaba. But I think most people who are trying to treat weeds in their lawn will simply go to Stroh-Snyder's and make a pick from what's available on the shelves. And until this product is off the shelves, it seems like purchasing it from Stroh-Snyder's is a very realistic possibility.
Yeah, I understand your concern, Darren. I think to Nate's point as well, not just the online, we, at DEP look at the entire county, and we have residents in Damascus who do their shopping in Frederick. We have residents in Sandy Spring who do their shopping in Howard County, in Columbia, so it is a little bit complicated, because I think when we think down in Kensington, we sort of think that maybe our world is closer where we go shopping. But when we think of the entire county, that we could ban the sale at, all this, what is it? I think it's about 52 locations in the county that sell some form of pesticides, or think about the fact that there's hundreds of locations that people are going outside of the county or ordering online from. And so I think there's a huge opportunity, though, to educate our hardware stores, our nurseries, our landscape supply centers that are here in Montgomery County.
I think
I don't mind it.
last time, my big problem with this was that the onerous was the resident. These companies have compliance departments that can handle the owners put on them for this. So I think this is going to be something motivated by lawn care companies, to keep them compliant, and then as a result motivates some of the residents to be compliant. I kind of feel better about this, but then that kind of gets me past the point that I was concerned. To address the argument that because we can't fix it, we shouldn't try, that's less convincing to me. I feel like if we can at least sort of push things in the right direction, it might help. It might not fix it totally, but it might do something. I can get behind this as long as we're not going after residents. I think it's much more appealing.
But they are going after residents, and that's why I'm.
Well, she's saying they're using discretion when they enforce.
Oh, okay. I thought I heard that neighbors would complain, they would go out and they would send letters.
Well, I'm going to stand in front of your house.
I know. Well, believe me, you're going to see something.
Well, so let me just give a scenario of how it's been working to date, because again, with all of our environmental laws, our goal at DEP is try to protect the environment, not to try to hurt the person in violation. So let's say that Bridget sees Nathan spraying something on his lawn, and she may not even know what it is, but oh, I saw my neighbor spraying Roundup, etc. I'm going to say to Bridget, can you give me as much information as you have? What did you see? When was it? What were they applying it to? And then Bridget says, well, I didn't see the bottle, but it looked like he was spraying in the lawn. I'm not really sure. That person probably will never get a letter from us, because we have literally not enough information from Bridget about what she saw. So I'm going to have a conversation with Bridget of, if you see it again, please give us as much information as possible. We're not sure that it's a violation. We're not going to send anything. But let's say the other scenario is Bridget saw Nathan out in his lawn or his provider, and they had a spray bottle and she could take a picture with her phone or whatever it was. I saw this spray bottle. This is where they were spraying it. I don't know what they're spraying it on, right? So I'm going to send a letter to Nathan that says, we had a report that could have been a violation. Here's the information about the law. We want to make sure that you are aware of the law. If you have any questions, please contact me. That's what they're gonna get from me, is that we want you to know about the law. We want you to cooperate. Because I don't know, Nathan might have just moved from Kansas, just bought this house, doesn't know the laws of Montgomery County. I don't know anything about him. He isn't, you know. So we try to be very fair. We're not just coming down with a hammer. Nathan, you did something wrong and don't do it again. So that's the way we handle all of them.
It sounds like you're treating it educationally, which is good. I do want to wind this up a little bit just because of there's a lot on the agenda tonight. So I don't want to go. Council, I don't want to cut you off if you have other questions, but I would, if anybody in the audience wants to send something, Councilmember Crimmins is monitoring the questions. Looks like there's a hand up from Angela. Angela, do you want to do a quick question?
Well, my name is actually Ling Tan. Sorry, my daughter's name is attached to my thing.
Okay.
But I'm here on behalf of Safe Grow Montgomery, and I worked with the county to advocate for this law, so I can answer some of the questions that you guys had on this, specifically on banning at point of sales. The county wasn't allowed to do that because it's preempted by the state, and so that only goes through the state. And the last time the state, so I wouldn't suggest waiting for the state to ban it at the store, because the last time they took action on the pesticide, it was 20 years. So I don't know that you want to wait 20 years for the state to, they may never act on this to ban it, which is very, very unlikely. So I think what we want to do is get behavior change. So when there's less demand at the retail level, we're hoping that retailers, other retailers like in Canada who have already done something like this, the retailers have switched to more safer products that are allowed under the law. So personally for myself, I got involved in this because my own children were outside playing, and along comes a pesticide company spraying my neighbor's yard, and I didn't realize they were spraying it. I was never informed, and my kids were exposed and they had asthma. So really the law was to really protect residents, protect communities, because we're on a chemical sensitivity list, and every day I get a call from True Green telling me they're going to spray 5 of my neighbors. After we found out about this, we got on the list, and so those calls are constant, and and we found that a lot of residents who have health issues are concerned about being exposed to it, especially now in the age of COVID, because these products do cause asthma and other health issues. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Lee, is it Lee? You're on mute, Lee.
Yes. So have you heard, Mary, of companies who have preemptively not sprayed in those jurisdictions where in fact it's permitted because they're not aware of the nuances of the laws? And the reason I ask that, obviously I have an example, is my landscaper. I do live in the town of Kensington, said that he would not spray because it's banned in Montgomery County. And he clearly did not know that we are not part of that yet, or that other jurisdictions are not part of that as well. So there's kind of almost an opposite effect. Have you seen that from some companies?
I'm not personally aware, just except for stories like yourself. As mentioned, Many of our environmental codes do not apply everywhere in the county, but most residents or businesses believe that they do, because we don't sit there with our noise law, our air law, our sediment control laws and lay out and nitpick, who is not a part of it. When we educate everyone about it. The only time we don't do that is some of our recycling and trash laws, where it's clear that we're not doing the pickup. But most people, the education implies that it's everywhere in Montgomery County, because we can't put on our education, it doesn't apply here, here, and here, and here for each of our laws, but it is on our website that they're exempted if somebody needs that information.
Okay. Anyone else?
Hey, Tracy, one last one. Just Mary, just a cheap plug for education, since that's been kind of the theme here. In one of the scenarios, maybe I bought a big old bag of pesticide or had it delivered or whatever. So now I have it, but now I've been educated and I don't want to put it on my lawn. What can I do with it? Where can I go in the county to dispose of it?
Good question. Very easy. We have a hazardous waste disposal open 7 days a week at our transfer station, and anyone can bring those products directly there. And I see a comment that Shruti from the Sierra Club wanted to say something.
Oh, okay. And she can go.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mayor Furman and all the town council members. Of course, my name is Shruti Bhatnagar and I'm the chair of the Sierra Club Montgomery County. Thank you for giving me a few moments to share some thoughts. I want to first of all thank you for being so thoughtful in this process. I know that it's really important to ask these questions and to understand the implications before making any decision. But Sierra Club at the Maryland chapter, as well as Montgomery County, has taken a position to support the Montgomery County pesticide law. And we were very instrumental in also testifying to the Gaithersburg City Council, and you heard already from Mary, so I will not be redundant in the information she has already shared, but I certainly want to urge you to think about this and urge you to consider adopting it in this year if possible, because if we wait until next year, it's one season that's lost. And a couple of thoughts that I wanted to mention was, today our country is facing the biggest health threat of our time with the COVID-19. And one of the most common ways that we are encouraging our residents to interact with each other for their own mental and physical well-being is to get outdoors and to spend time outdoors. It's the safest way. And so it's really, really important to ensure that harmful chemical pesticides are restricted from use to create a safe outdoor environment for our local neighbors and communities, especially children. And there are a lot of links just mentioned, but pesticides have been associated with cancers, with birth defects, with reproductive and neurological effects, asthma, and respiratory effects. So I think it's really important that during this time that we put the health and safety of the residents at the forefront and not let perfection come in the way of goodness. So I heard some of the comments earlier, and sure, I actually want to second what Councilmember Engel talked about. People can online today buy anything they want. So, boundaries really have no meaning. If somebody wants to get something, they can. It becomes even more important for us to be proactive and enforce these regulations for people to become more aware of the harmful effects. And there's certainly going to be a process of education for community members involved in that. But I just want to not take more of your time. Thank you for allowing me to present my remarks today, and I want to strongly encourage you to please consider enacting this in the town of Kensington.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I want to wrap this up. So Mary, thank you for coming this evening. Council, as you know, if we want to proceed with this, we will have to introduce an ordinance at our next meeting. We will have to have a hearing on that. So it's a process. And then we would vote on it the following month. So I'd like to get a vote, I guess, to whether we're going to proceed with this or not.
Can I just make 2 quick points? And I know we want to move on, but Mary's still here. I sort of live my life according to the motto of don't make the perfect the enemy of the good. So I don't mean to nitpick and say we shouldn't do anything because it's not perfect. I'm just not sure that it's good yet. But you know, that we've got 3 other council of 4, so we'll figure that one out. But in the story that you gave, where Bridget calls and tells you what Nate is doing to his lawn, and your decision point is, do I send a letter or not? And the answer is no. If the goal of this law is education, I would hope that at that point you would send the person, Nate, a pamphlet that explains the law. Even if it's not a $50 or a notice of violation, send them a pamphlet that says, so that you know somebody who's putting stuff on his lawn now has a pamphlet in their hands that says what the law is.
Good point, Darren. Yes, and those are things that we have been doing, and I failed to mention that. We just didn't want to send a warning letter to the individual if we don't have enough information. But yes, just letting them know, because they might have just moved to the county and they might not be aware. They might be a renter, you know.
Okay.
I just want to let everybody know, I put my email and our website about the law in the comments in case anybody wants to save that. You're welcome to contact me or go to the website as well.
Thank you. Would someone like to make a motion if we want to move forward with this?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, that will
Make a motion to move forward with the Montgomery County pesticide plan.
to adopting the law.
To adopt that
Introduce
law.
an ordinance.
So yeah, we would draft, staff would draft an ordinance for introduction at a future council meeting.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Is there any further discussion? Okay.
I will vote to move forward with everybody else of a resolution. I don't know that I'm, going to vote for, but I certainly don't mind moving forward with a motion and an ordinance.
Okay. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Great. Thank you very much, Mary. Thank you.
Thank you.
Start the process for next month's meeting. Okay.
Okay.
Great. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's move forward to number 3. Connor, do you want to introduce this?
Yes, I'm going to just share my screen real quick just to visually help people understand. This is Development Review Board. Item number 1 from the agenda tonight is to talk about 10509 Summit Avenue, which is located at the corner of Summit and Knowles. So I'm just going to slowly zoom in here and help people just orient themselves. Connecticut Avenue is here to the east. Here's Knowles, where we have Chipotle and the Kensington Shopping Center. And we're talking about this property right here at the corner, which is right next to Wine and Company. The applicant or developer for the property is going to come up just behind me, and then I'll come back after Tom Brault and his group introduce the project to talk a little bit about the DRB process. But I did want to let people know the developer has met with the Development Review Board, a committee within the town of Kensington, which Darren and I are chairs, on several occasions. Some were a different iteration, a different project. For this specific project, they met twice during the month of August, on the 12th and 24th. The minutes and the plans that were presented are on the town's website, tok.md.gov. But specifically, they are introducing a project that is located in the Sector Plan Town Center-19 or TC19 parcel. It's called the Dietrich and Summit Block. That block is zoned CRT 1.5 with a C 1.0, an R of 0.5, and a height of 60 feet. We met with the developer on the 12th. The DRB provided quite a bit of input on the design and on different aspects of the project. The developer came back on the 24th with some changes to help offset the comments that they had received, and presented a project that is right around 1.36 total FAR. So under the 1.5 that is zoned for that property. Setting all that aside, then all I'd like to do now is introduce Tom Brault. And Tom, you and your team can just take it from here. You might be on mute, Tom.
Good evening, everybody. I hope I am clear now.
Yes.
Thanks, everybody. I wanted to thank the DRB. It's actually, we've had 4 separate meetings. We've had 4 community meetings, and this is our 3rd year on the project. Tonight, we've got quite a group of professionals. We were here to present the changes that we did from the, I guess it's the August 12th meeting to the 24th meeting, and we'll focus in on that. So who's with us tonight? We've got Bob from DDA. Bob Kite, are you with us?
I am here, yep.
All right, we've got some traffic experts with us as well.
We're here.
All right.
All door.
We got some landscaping talent amongst us as well. Okay, David, yeah, great. Okay, so this is our 3rd year. Hopefully we've continued to listen to the community. We're a part of the community. I'm happy to report we've actually served food to our 3rd hospital recently. We had a little block party recently, and we really enjoy and are grateful for being a part of the community. We are asking the council tonight to vote for our project and write a letter of support, perhaps taking up the conditions that the DRB so thoughtfully noted. We're hoping that you will be kind enough to submit that document to the Planning Board Chair, Casey. And so that's our goal tonight. Why don't we get going on the changes we made. So the original sort of board date on the 12th, we had 3 technical questions that I thought were really smart. I think Leslie offered a couple. I think maybe Mike, maybe Nate, but we got some really good technical questions. And Bob Kite, maybe you could help me on this. But one of the first important questions we got was related to the schools. And people were concerned, if you have a 100-unit apartment building, you know, what is the impacts to the schools? So we did our research, Connor and Madame Furman, and we found out it was we thought it was 8.4 students. And we checked with planning staff, and I believe they came back and said it was 7. So
yeah. Staff did their study, and they came back with it's an addition of 4 elementary school students, 1 middle school, and 2 high schools. So it's an addition of 7 students per park and planning study.
So at the second DRB, that didn't seem to be as big a concern once we had the technical information. And at the first DRB, we had not finished a traffic study. And so traffic became quite a discussion point. So we're happy that we engaged the traffic group. They completed a number of studies and found that, in essence, I'll let them speak for themselves, that the project really was of nominal to no impact in the traffic arena. And that was their findings, and that's what was submitted to planning staff. Is that a fair synopsis, Glenn?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Technically, how many cars does the project produce at its worst in the evening, peak hour?
Well, during the peak hours, we'd be generating approximately 1 additional car every 2 minutes, either going to the site or leaving the site. And of course, the traffic disperses over the road network. So it helps minimize the impact on the adjacent intersections. And when we did the analysis of the individual intersections, while we comply with the requirements of park and planning, we did everything in accordance with their procedures. What we found was that the amount of delay that would be added to the intersections by our project would not even be noticeable. Where when we look at delay, we look at the overall delay to the intersection. And here we're talking about tenths of seconds additional delay as a result of our project. So absolutely minimal.
And we have a number of documents that we were happy to field questions from any of the council as we get into it. But in terms of, you know, where we were, we didn't have a traffic study. We did it. We got what we felt was a good result. And another question that came up was a concern over height, just a technical question. We were asked to demonstrate, I think, where the height is measured from, how high it goes up. And then in our case, we have 25% moderately priced dwelling units and what happens. And I think I'm not super at the technical nature of it, Bob and Bob. We got Bob Kite and Bob Luchek. But the net of it is we do have the right to, with the 25 LPDUs, have a 12-foot height increase. And that became the source of a lot of discussion and debate. And but I think the technical finding is that we have the right to go to a 72-foot height, and that we could make our designs work under the code, and that staff at parking planning had agreed with that. We have agreed to modify the facade, and I think that's one of the bigger questions to discuss, and Bob Buchek can present on that. So those are the three technical things: schools, the amount of traffic, and can you get it to 72 feet under the county code? And so those were the technical ones. Now, in terms of the design, I thought Leslie had just really some thoughtful comments. And maybe Bob Kite, you can show where we agreed to reduce some of the pavement on the northern facade. So we reduced some pavement to green space, because park and planning was saying, well, it's got to be pavement. And then we thought Leslie had a good idea. So we modified the plan for some extra green space. If someone could present that, I'd like to show on the plan how we adjusted to accommodate that concern.
Yeah, I'll try. I can pull it up.
Okay.
So share here. Tell me if you can see the plan.
Yeah, this is the not pretty picture, but it's the technical picture. Yeah.
Bob, we can see your screen. Thank you.
All right, so I can go to the previous. This is the previous design. If you see we had more expansive hardscape at the plaza level, and what to increase the green space. Here's a pretty picture. We took some of that hardscape out and expanded the tree panel here, and actually even added a tree in. Got David Judd on the line. I think if you wanted to describe more what's going on with your landscaping out there, you got prettier language than I do for describing your design.
David, you're on mute. So Bob Kite, why don't you field that question?
Is it star 6? Am I unmuted now?
Now we got you, David.
Can you all hear me? Perfect. Yep. Awesome. Cool. Yeah. So what we did is one of the key things when talking with staff was wanting to make sure that the opening into this corner was inviting for the retail and things like that. And then there was but we also wanted to make sure we maintained that. But what we did is we lost a little bit of hardscape, but it's still a good opening to the retail space. I still have a really good significant plaza there. But what we did is reduce some impervious surface, added some green space, and added another tree on there, which kind of helps create more of a streetscape element when you first enter into the town. So you can kind of see the trees aligning across the street from the townhome development as well. So it actually is kind of creates a little bit more of a streetscape element, or streetscape feel to it. So that's kind of where we talk with staff, we talk with the group, and the council, not the council, but the group that we were discussing with, like trying to make it a little more softer for rather than hardscape. So this is what we came up with.
Yeah, it was a thoughtful comment from the town, and we accommodated. Yeah. Bob Vuchak, would you go through, I thought Mike and Nate and even Al Carr had real thoughtful comments. So if you were to go through maybe the loading and what we did and maybe the front facades and how we adjusted to meet the comments.
Yes, good evening, everybody. Actually, Bob Kite, if you wouldn't mind just leaving that on the screen for a second.
All right, same plan.
I just wanted to point out where we initially had the loading space proposed. Just a little bit to the right. Yeah, you can see in that corner of the Dietrich retail parking lot, we were proposing to actually put in a loading space that would be used for both sites, and we obviously got a comment that did not seem appropriate and adequate. So we went ahead and restudied the height of the building on the summit side and verified that we can actually get a recessed loading dock into our own building mass. So now I will share my screen and show you how we achieve that. Okay, somebody has to give me permission to share. Maybe now, okay.
I stopped sharing, try now.
Okay, great. Can you guys see my screen?
Not yet, Bob.
Okay, hold on. I always forget to hit that share button.
Yep, it's coming. All right, we've got it.
Okay, fine. So before I get started, I just wanted to also welcome the new business to town of Kensington, and I was especially pleased to hear the name of the program, Sip and Learn. That reminded me of my study habits back in Penn State days. I just thought maybe a little bit of a joke about that would be well accepted.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you. We look forward to having you in your business.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Okay, so this is the current layout of the parking garage. Basically, the base of the building. This is the original layout that we initially suggested on the 8/12 DRB meeting, and in this case, we basically had a entrance from the Summit Avenue at the I guess the northwest corner of the building with the lobby right here, and we eventually went back to I'm sorry, to this layout. I have to zoom in a little bit. I apologize for the speed of my computer or lack thereof. But anyway, we were able to get the loading space, dedicated loading space, which will be basically contained within a decorative overhead rolling grill, and it will not have to be open during the regular, daytime hours unless somebody really needs to use it. And that's somebody being the residents who are moving in or moving out, as well as the trash service removal folks, since we had the trash room compactor located directly adjacent to the loading dock. So that was basically one way we solved it. As you can see here, we have like 3.5 foot drop from the east entrance to the garage to the west side of the garage. And that actually allowed us to take advantage of that extra height to get a 14-foot clearance to get the truck to be able to back up into the loading area.
And importantly, Bob, the view and the concerns that Mike had raised, so we included a new parking option to consider. So that's the important thing. What does it look like? And I think
we start again. I will start off with what we initially suggested, when we basically came in with two options. The base option was pretty much 2 levels of straight parking, so to speak, with a retail level on retail and then the amenity level on the nose level. We also proposed the option to, if necessitated by the town's requirements, we could in fact excavate the cellar level to the full extent of the building footprint and provide some additional parking that can be basically shared with the town. In this scenario, we then use the front of the Summit Avenue level parking to bring in some office space to the front of the building. And during the review with DRB, we got the comments, and which we appreciated, that everybody would prefer to see this office space as kind of a permanent feature in the front of the building on the north facade, to basically, allow some livelihood, some lively activity and an actual, kind of an energized space to work on that side of the building, as opposed to hiding a parking garage with a glass, which we could do, but obviously wouldn't look all that great. So we came back and we now have, in fact, we have three parking options. First parking option, I'm gonna just zoom a little bit down. First parking option is, again, no excavation on the cellar level. That would remain the same. Under this scenario, we would introduce that office on the front of the street as part of the this base option, and then second floor remains full parking level as described. Under the option 2, this is basically what we were looking at last time around. If the office does not really seem to be that much of a desire, and parking is actually more desirable, then we can go back to a full level of parking, most likely not to happen. And then this is the third option, in which we will still keep that office in the front and excavate to add some additional spaces in the cellar. So all three of these are very viable. The two, obviously, that DRB preferred are options 1 and 3, in which we do, in fact, have some actual commercial space fronting on the street. And most likely that will be the option that the developer will choose as well. Tom, did you have anything to add to this?
No, I think you ought to just go to the facades and
so this is basically what I was talking about. Is right now we're showing 2 levels of storefront, actually 3 levels as it is. The top one here would be, in fact, a storefront hiding the portion of the parking garage, but the first 2 levels would be retail and office, as you've seen on the plans. One of the
So I think the big thing to talk about here is the gateway feature into the town.
Right.
And I think we have made a commitment to do what the DRB and the council would like. We submitted the plan with this architectural feature there out of the request of park and planning staff.
Yeah, we're talking about the tower feature at the corner.
Right.
Yes.
Which is, we're open to a dialogue with the council tonight about it. We're open to redesign it. We were clearly told that the park and planning staff prefer it. And we had a lot of discussion about it. So I just want to openly ask Bob Vucek, you've done a lot of architecture around the country and in the world, and frankly, you're international. Do you recommend and think the gateway entrance feature at the roof should remain, or do you personally think it's more attractive to remove it?
I am actually in favor of having some sort of an accent feature on the corner itself. It is something that is almost expected on buildings that are happening on the corner.
Thank you, Bob. So what I want,
the height of the feature itself is perhaps something that I would not mind personally reducing.
Park and planning staff really makes this is the driving force behind this. So we're just trying to tell the entire council that we are open to a discussion about it. The plan has been submitted to the county with it being included. So from our perspective, we're here to serve. If there's a different way to produce it, it's been stated that it may be better from long distances down Summit or Knowles Avenue. So we're open to that discussion. I think the last point I wanted to make it, and then we would just kick it over to the council and ask whatever questions you have. We are very pleased with the DRB's findings with 6 in favor of the project and 0 against. We're open to further tweak it. But I thought Nate, I'm not even sure, I believe it was Nate, somebody had a really thoughtful comment about, you know, environmental features within the building, and we're open to that. But the floor is yours, ask away, and these experts will answer.
So with that, real quick, thanks. Just for the council, the DRB did, at the end of the meeting on the 24th, go around the table and just talk. I mean, the process was simply asking them if they supported the project as designed, or if they supported it but had an issue or a topic or an area they wanted to put in kind of as a condition. And so the letter that we presented to you is to say that the DRB does support the design that we saw on the 24th, but we have identified, I believe it's a total of 6 items, that's in the middle part of the letter, that are addressed to either the applicant or to planning staff to further look at. So you heard the applicant today talk about, they produced a traffic study. We don't have the depth of engineering to perform that, so we've asked the planning staff to review their traffic study and numbers and trip generations for accuracy. We've asked about that crown or cornice element that they just talked about. We have asked them to look at the parking garage and to ensure that what we really, as much as we wanted to activate and increase the commercial space, it was also an opportunity to state that we do not want to see parking. And so this was a way to pull that parking back. And you saw that in the design. We've asked them to enhance the relationship, working with planning staff between the current Wine and Company building and this building. We talked about there are currently about 5 or 6 parallel spots that are within the parking of Wine and Company that if this is to become a throughway, our recommendation is that those parallel spots be removed from the project. However, knowing that that parking count to that project is controlled by the county, we've asked the county planning staff to review the opportunity to move those parking spaces into this parking ramp so that Wine and Company still gets credit for the parking they have to provide, but we can make a safer throughway. And then finally, we talked a little bit about signage and lane striping to help navigate and orient those people maybe not entirely, not from the community who may be here, on ways to get out to Connecticut northbound or Connecticut southbound that don't involve exiting onto Knowles Avenue. And so those are the 6 bullet points in there. And with that, Tracy, I turn it back over to you to open it for questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Council, I know Darren and Connor are, both on the DRB. So Bridget and Nate, this is an opportunity for you both to ask your questions. So Nate, do you want to start?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Tom, and everyone else for the presentation, and Connor for facilitating it. Yeah, so Tom, I think you kind of probably guessed where I'd first come in and talking about the LEED certification. I mentioned it during the public portion of the first DRB meeting in August. So glad to hear that you're open to this, and just for the benefit of everyone else in the meeting, I requested them to look into committing to doing LEED certification silver level, which is basically excellence in environmental design, which is not actually, it's a little bit of a misnomer because it's not just about environmental design, because it actually can have an economic benefit too in the long run to the building. So I would just say that I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, and that for, to be very honest, that for me to support this, I'd have to get a commitment that you're gonna pursue the LEED certification, particularly at the silver level. The only other two things I wanted to flag and ask a question about were, the first is related to that, actually. I know that in the same meeting, I made a comment about I had a question about the bike storage and bike parking. I'm curious if you've explored, and this did not come up during that meeting, it was whether you explored working with Capital Bike Share to put a bike station there, as well as beyond just kind of temporary parking with bike racks, whether you would help to promote bicycling through having bike lockers and more, more robust storage for the residents. You answered the question, thank you, preemptively on the loading, but there's another aspect of this that I think did not get attention yet in your comments, and that's around deliveries, Amazon, UPS. I just wanted to hear your plan for where you will direct those deliveries and avoid particularly any stopping on Knowles, as we see oftentimes for the building that's on the corner of Connecticut and Knowles, you're stopping right on Connecticut. So, your commitment to making sure that that does not happen. I'd like to hear a little more about your plan for that. And then last but not least, just to throw out a wild idea here, you're talking about potentially making modifications to this gateway entrance or, the tower. I've seen in numerous cities, and I have a photo right here on my phone. I don't unfortunately have it on the device I'm using, but I was in Los Angeles a year ago, and they did a vertical garden on the wall. Thinking about LEED certification, I know this would certainly help with that. I have no idea about the economics, but you're seeing it more and more, and it's quite a unique feature that I think you could consider adding. So I'll stop there, and thanks again for the presentation.
Tom, would you like me to address some of these questions?
Absolutely, and lean on David Judd, because we're going to defer to you all, and then we'll answer the big question.
Okay, first let me address the LEED certification. We have, when we discussed this question last time around, I was slightly unprepared on the most current laws in Montgomery County, so I did a little bit of research. And apparently, as of December 27 of 2017, Montgomery County has adopted a green code, one of the first counties in the United States to do so. Within this green code, and basically starting with projects built after June of 2018, which of course we fall into, we will have to meet the NGBC green code requirements as part of the building permit submission. We have to design the building to the green code requirements. In fact, the NGBC has replaced LEED for the multifamily commercial projects. So to answer your question, we don't have a choice. We will be complying. We will be designing to the silver level of National Green Building Standard, and that will be part of our future design and application for the building permit. That is, in fact, same concept as the LEED itself. I'm not certain that the LEED silver and the green silver is the same thing, word by word, but that is what we will have to follow. That's the first question. The second question was regarding the bicycles. If I may again just share my screen real quick.
Yeah, while you're looking to do that, Bob, I'd like you to address the inside component of Nate's thoughtful questions, and maybe Mr. Judd could do the outside.
That's exactly where I'm headed, Tom. We actually have provided quite a few parking spaces on the second level of the parking garage, which is basically all dedicated for the residential use.
Do you mean parking spaces for bikes?
parking spaces for bikes. Yes, bike lockers.
Make Nate happy. All right, good.
Yes, right. So basically, we have quite a few spots here, there, and there, and that's in addition to what David Judd has already provided on the site just in front of the building. So I guess I will relinquish my share at this point.
So how many bike parking spaces are on that level? Do you know? Is it like over 50 or something?
We have 43 bike parking within the garage and 10 on-site bike racks.
There you go.
Wow.
Thank you.
So we got a total of 53.
All right. So David, you show them where they are outside.
Okay.
Yeah, let me, let me know if you guys can
perhaps
see.
share your screen?
Can you see my screen? Can y'all see my screen?
Not yet.
Yeah.
Not seeing it yet.
Hit that little share button on the bottom corner.
There we go. There we go. Can y'all see it now?
Yeah.
Okay. What we've done here is you can see, let me zoom in a little bit here, is we've added 2 bike racks in here in the main plaza, the main large plaza. And we've also added 3 parking spaces over here, bike racks, excuse me. So it's basically this is 6 spaces right here. This is 4 parking spaces right here, bike racks. This is kind of serving the building here, but also helping because we're kind of viewing the whole area as a community group here. It's kind of serving actually the buildings over here as well. And we do have a rack over here going into the park as well. So we are providing bike. Do
you show the one on Wine and Company?
Right here, yeah. This is the one right here. I'm sorry, yeah. I apologize about that. And we did add one up here next to the corner, next to Wine and Company. So there's another two spaces here, 1 rack, 2 spaces, 3 racks, 6 spaces, and 2 4 spaces. And then over there on the park side as well.
Okay, wonderful. Bob, if you could go to the 2 elevations, I think the next question Nate had was relative to exterior art. I think long ago, we have proposed.
Hey, Tom, I'm just going to redirect you. Deliveries, where delivery trucks come and go.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, we do believe that loading dock that we provided should be adequate for that kind of service. We have some parallel spaces right in front of the building on Simon Avenue. I'm sorry?
I think it's best to see the deliveries in the elevations. So if you could show the.
You mean 2D elevations, Tom? I'm sorry.
Bob, you can show your screen now.
Happy to go back to your art question, Nate. I think it's wonderful.
Here's the elevation. Here's the elevation from Simon Avenue, which shows basically the entrance to the parking garage.
Bob Vucek, can you share your screen once again? I had to stop David Judd's.
There you go.
No problem.
So this is the elevation on 7th Avenue. Right along here, we have several parking spaces that could easily be used for a 30-second UPS stop, and we do have the dedicated service loading area that's hidden by a like I said, glass overhead garage door. Which
so zoom in on that, will you, Bob? So yes. Connor, that's where all of the furniture, and it has direct access to an elevator that goes all the way up to the roof. So that's where the loading is. And the beautiful thing is it's screened. So the vast majority of the time, the thing will be closed. And you'll just look at it, and what you'll see is David's landscapings to the left and the right of it, and the green panel and the new sidewalk. But that's what we were able to do, and then isolate it so it doesn't get in anybody's way. And Bob Kite at Bowler drew a wonderful 3-point turning movement that's part of the application with planning staff.
And then Bob Buchek, just as a reminder, the height elevation coming in off of Summit, you know, so for the transit style vans, the Sprinter style vans, car deliveries, those can all fit within the underground, you know, the street level garage.
Yes, we have ample clearance within the garage itself. Obviously, from the Dietrich side, this is the entrance from the Dietrich side. This is a regular 10-foot garage entrance, so that will be prohibited. But as far as the clearance for the vans and ambulances and whatnot, that's been well thought out and taken care of.
Bob, while you're on that facade there, I did not know Nate was going to bring this up, but I want you to discuss with your MIT now, when coming from the wine bar and entering the parking garage.
Right.
I'd like David, you know, maybe you can show everybody where the greenscape will be above your stuff there, because the greenscape's not shown. But I think it's a great opportunity for art there too. And
basically, the entire length, or 2/3 of this facade, from this point right here, all the way over to the corner, and then turning the corner, going towards Summit. This is a microbiome stormwater management structure, which is basically a planter that will be, you know, topping off this entire length of the building, the podium along here. I actually did bring a new rendering just to give you an idea how exactly the massing works here. You can see that this is the level of the atrium, and these are the two wings of the building. 50 feet apart between these two wings is the outdoor space, and you know, the massing of this building is actually quite pleasant from all sides. And then going back to the question of enhancing this particular facade, we have the blank wall of the parking garage on the second level. They will be perfect for display of permanent art or seasonal art or whatnot. They can be worked out with the community as a blank canvas.
Hey Tom, I want to make sure Bridget gets her questions in as well.
Okay, then we'll just end it up. So when you drive from the wine bar into it, it's all green. So everything above that is green.
All of this,
right? It's all green.
Yes.
So from the green down is about 12 feet, and it presents an opportunity for some artwork. And you know, we would have to control it, we would have to approve it, but it's a great opportunity, Nate, to work with you, not just on the front feature, but here too. So that's all we're saying.
So I have a question. Earlier you said that Montgomery County was following the green code. Are you saying that LEED is mutually exclusive of the green code?
Well, they're not one and the same, but they're basically the same concept. LEED was, you know, when LEED was first brought into our life, it was basically a suggestion, and it was voluntary, and people started to use it to be competitive, you know, in offering their commercial products on the market. My firm was one of the leaders of that movement for the last 20 years. As a matter of fact, we followed it to a T as much as we could. We learned along the way that you know, people were getting to a point where everybody said, well, let's design to LEED, but we don't necessarily need to pay money for certifications, but we'll design to it anyway. So we started to do that part. Well, then obviously the building codes came to a point where they wanted to make sure the certain amount sustainability is included as a mandatory requirement in the code requirements. So for a long while, the lead certified, which was like the lowest possible level, was kind of a mandatory for certain size projects in Montgomery County. And then eventually they adopted the green code, which supplants the lead requirements.
So what we often do, just to answer the question, is you can do additive. You can do both, right? And I think that's the question. So
yeah, well, I mean,
right, you can do both, right? All right. So
yes, we can do both.
Is that your question, Bridget?
Right. I mean, the implication of what I'm asking is, I mean, from what I'm seeing online right now, you know, what Nate's asking for, it seems like might be a little bit higher than what the green code provides.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And I think that I think what's telling about this is that even though it's the county code, and the county still has its own provision to hold itself to a higher standard when it's building its own infrastructure, that it has to at least get LEED certification, LEED silver certification. So it is, as I understand it, it's a higher standard, and it sets it.
Yeah, I apologize. I may not have explained myself exactly the way I intended, but what I was trying to say is that us as design team and the owner are in fact committed to sustainability portion of this project, and we have no issue following LEED silver standards in addition to whatever the county requires. But I wanted to stress that
So if you could take a minute, Bob, take a minute. You mentioned a big word without any detail. Sustainability. All right. Talk about the HVAC and sustainability.
Yeah, I mean, the main portion of both LEED as well as the NGBS is energy savings, and that basically means defined building envelope with additional insulation in walls and roof, a bit insulated underside of the residential units from the parking levels. We're talking about the low E, high efficiency glazing throughout the job. You start with good practices to prevent heat loss and heat gain and loss before you even come to design the mechanical system. And then of course you start off by designing the mechanical system using the most efficient equipment that you can find for this type of use. And you have to meet or beat the baseline to show that you are in fact doing something that would get points. We would obviously have to do that. We would run the energy model and prove that this is doable. Beyond the energy itself, there are other.
Bridget, do you have any other questions that we can address?
I mean,
sure don't.
Yeah.
So,
okay, if I would like to, Darren, I know you know this project, but I did want to give you an opportunity to speak if you wanted to say something about the project before we open it up to the public.
Sure. And wave me off, Tom, if something has changed since we last talked. I heard a presentation about the third level of parking, and we've talked about the various ways you're going to achieve the density here. If you want to just take a couple minutes and talk about the opportunity for the third level of parking, I think we would want to hear from you or one of your team first, and then open that to discussion as well.
Okay.
Or if you want me to.
No, while we're discussing it, I think it may be best if Bob Kite or Bob Uchek put up the parking on the screen. But in a nutshell, The zoning that we have sort of picked up on is a little bit unique. So the zoning that we are is a 1.5, which is good, right? We can't get close to it. However, it's inverted. It's a 0.5 residential and a 1.0 commercial. And it's been the central difficulty that we have all had to deal with. And so it would be a lot better for us, and I think the town, if it was a 1.0 residential and a 0.5 commercial and it was flipped. I think that's one of the things that would help us conclude this project.
And Tom, because you brought it up during the DRB, just real quickly and succinctly, what are the ways that you, outside of flipping it, how would you get the residential density you needed to make this project work?
Well, there's three methods. One method is going to the county council ourselves, and we simply can't afford it. That would take about a year, and there's no guarantee of success if we as a development company ask for that. And then we can't process our subdivision plans. So it's just not a viable option for us. The second way is called FAR averaging, where you move density from nearby sites. And in this particular case, we have the Pliers Mills Soccer America building under contract, and we're able to move the density to here. And the reason we're doing that is to make an apartment building sustainable. Stated another way is you can't hire 1.5 people. So at 100 units, we can have 2 workers. If we did 75, you can't have 1.5, and it's the way the economics work within the multifamily industry, as stated by our experts, there's a problem. So we want and request 100 unit approval because it's economically viable within the operating expenses of a building. So FAR averaging is the second, and that's what we're doing now. The third is a zoning text amendment. We are not authorized or allowed, as I understand it from Bob Kite and other experts on the call with us tonight, but certainly the town could ask for a zoning text amendment. So the concept is that we would process this under FAR averaging and be in our subdivision and site plan process while the town and the county processed a mechanism to flip from a 1.0 commercial to a 1.0 residential. And I want to point out that it's almost like a hidden error in many of the areas of the master plan. Farther away from the town center core is, it's actually where the Acker & Sons plumbing site is. They have a 1.5 residential, and they're farther away. And then Neil Burka's site has a 2.5 residential. So it's nonsensical. So we hope you all would consider working with us. That way, it would save us the benefit of time. And that's our respectful request for you to help us flip. Is that an effective answer?
Yeah.
Well, I certainly, in getting to know the sector plan over the last 8 years that it's been in effect, I have a couple of thoughts that I think all of us need to consider. You can take the screen sharing down if you want. The first is, when we opposed the self-storage facility, it was because it wasn't what we called quintessential mixed use. It was not a couple floors of residence over a commercial or retail level. And that's what I think we all imagined when we passed the sector plan. And so when I when you expressed an interest in this property and we looked at the zoning provisions for it, I was surprised to find that the commercial density provided for the site was double what residential was. And so, from the get-go, we've questioned why the residential.
It's odd because there's more requirements for parking. I mean, it's really it makes it's worse. It's odd. It's like it's harder.
And so I want to explore with planning kind of fixing this or addressing it on a global level throughout the sector plan area. But I know that will probably be a longer process than you have the ability to sustain for this project, with the various things that you have under contract. So what I would propose doing is addressing this on a site-specific basis for your property, because I can't think of a reason why we would want twice as much commercial density on this site as residential. I have no interest in changing the height limit. I know that the ZTA does that, but that was the county decision. I have no interest in going above the 1.5 FAR for the site. But within the 1.5 FAR, I believe that we should be pursuing a flexibility that's offered on other sites throughout town. If you look at the 10400 building, it's 2.5 overall FAR and 2.0 residential and 2.0 commercial. And that gives the developer the opportunity to have more residential or more commercial, depending on what their needs are. This provides very little flexibility for the site. And it's not just your site on the south side, it's also the little parcels as you go further north up, all of TC19 in the sector plan. So it's something that I want to pursue within the context of this proposal. And then hopefully further broader for the rest of the town.
Yeah, I think it also, if you can take height from another property and send it over there, not height, but the FAR, now you're crippling that other piece of property to redevelop because you've taken that and moved it somewhere else. And so that really hurts in the long run redevelopment in that area of town. So
I couldn't agree more. That's absolutely correct.
And I think having more apartments for non-age restrictive is something that people have been wanting. They haven't been screaming for more commercial office space. They want nicer apartments that are non-restricted, so age restricted. So I agree with Darren. I would like to definitely investigate that. And as he said, it doesn't affect height. It just affects the ability to have more apartments versus commercial, retail, or office space. We really need to get moving on this. So I do want to open it up to the community if they have any questions, if we can keep the answers somewhat brief, but detailed, but somewhat brief. But so Jack, I know you had your hand up. Can you take yourself off mute and ask a quick question?
This is actually more of a comment than a question.
Okay.
You mentioned the traffic on Knowles. Something they can do immediately to improve the traffic on Knowles is to synchronize the light at Summit and Knowles with the light at Connecticut and Knowles. Sometimes it takes me 17 minutes to go from the library to Connecticut because when I get the green light at Summit, I can't go because the cars in front of me are stopped. When they go, I got a red light and I can't go and I have to wait for another cycle.
Hey, Jack, this is Connor. We absolutely understand that point. So we had a working session with State Highway Administration earlier this month. They owe us their comments about topics like that by the end of September.
Thank you very much. That's great. I look forward to it. Thank you.
What do we, Jack?
Glenn, do you have anything to add to this?
So, oops. Okay, it's certainly something that can be done. I mean, there's probably interconnect out there today, actually, because Montgomery County oversees all of the signals within the county, and they're all tied into their master computer. So, I mean, the timing can always be adjusted and synced better with the additional traffic that's being added out here, not only by us, but other people too. So it's certainly doable when working with the state and with county DOT.
Just to be succinct, Connor, if we can assist you in any way with that dialogue, let us know.
Thanks. There's a question in the chat box, just to make it easier, I'll just read it. There's a question about whether or not the windows and doors at the residential units will be inset in order to create shadow lines as an important architectural feature.
Yes, well, we have designed the entire facade kind of as a layered facade. Let me see if I can share my screen again. Oops. Good. I apologize. We have you can see from this rendering that the entire facade was designed kind of as a layered look. We have 2 layers of the brick itself. Am I on mute by chance?
Nope, you're good.
Okay. We have basically a light tan brick as a background. Reddish brown brick sticks out in front of it, and then the dark gray bay windows come out even further ahead of it. And in each case, the windows are in fact set back to allow for more texture on the facade and to allow for the shadows and the playful 3D feel of the entire project. In addition to that, we obviously have the balconies that are recessed about 5-6 feet into the mass of the building. And I do believe that the answer is yes to the question.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Connor, there was one other one from Joe Campbell in the chat room.
Did I miss it? Joe, if you're there and you just want to bring it up, I'm not seeing it.
Okay. Let's see.
If he had his hand up.
No, it's something about, well, delaying it until District 3 engineers can undertake the 547, but I don't think we're going to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
And just because it is in the chat, it just came in. Yes, a traffic study was done. We talked about that earlier. We're not going to rehash it, but we've asked county engineers to verify and validate the numbers.
Right. Okay. Question came from the city. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Good. Is there anybody else? Before we take it back to the council? No.
I don't see anything else.
Okay, good. All right. So council tonight, the applicant is asking us to formally send a letter to planning. We can certainly include any of what the DRB has that so far hasn't been addressed. Any concerns. There's also opportunities at planning board meetings to attend and to personally give. Well, probably by virtually, but to also testify at the county level. So, Connor, do you want to make a motion?
Before we do that, can I ask?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I thought you were going to come back to us. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, you're right.
I didn't hear a clear answer about the LEED silver certification. I know there was some back and forth. Hate to beat a dead horse, but I just want to hear that that's going to be pursued, because there was some confusion about what exactly we were talking about with the certifications and the codes.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nate, and Bridget, thank you very much. I think very thoughtful things. Hopefully you learn from this communication. We spent a lot of time on it. I hope everyone can grasp for a minute that we've been on this project 3 years, right? 3 years, Nate. We've had 4 DRBs, 4 community meetings, and been at this quite a bit. We've been through a moratorium, and now we're in a global pandemic. We don't know what's going to happen with this election. We don't know whether, there's a lot of unknown. But we absolutely want and commit to doing a LEED silver building. Now, we're asking for stuff from you guys to help us get a 1.0 residential, so we're not committed to live-work units and stuff like that. But, we're absolutely committed to making this a sustainable, gorgeous building, because we want it to lease up. In a post-COVID world, we think you're right.
Hey, Tom, I guess the other point of uncertainty for me, you guys did a wonderful job presenting, but you did talk about all 3 options for parking, but primarily you focused on the 2, whether or not you would build the third below ground deck of parking or not. Is there, where are you on that?
Well, it's still early in our costing, right? I think it takes an awful long time to understand. Like, we don't even have, Nate, we don't know what type of carrier HVAC system we're going to do or not do. So it's difficult. And we're digging into the actual costs. Like, we don't know the water table level yet, and those types of things when you get into construction. But we certainly want to have 3 levels of parking. We certainly want to have a lower level that's private. We certainly want to have a middle level that's all commercial. And we certainly want to have an upper level that's all residential. It makes it very easy to manage. And Glenn had thought through some really nice ways to manage cut through and have traffic cameras and so forth. I think we're at the point where we really want to do it. And if our costs come in where we can afford it, then we will commit to do it. It's just going to take us probably another 2 months to get viable construction documents, so they're to a point where we could, for 100% certainty. But we can commit to working with you if you can work with us.
All right, so if we can try to bring this to a close, we have the DRB forwarded a letter of support for the project to the council. And I would like to adopt that letter with the council's support and send it along to the planning staff so that they will continue to process this letter, knowing that, we support the project. I just want them to pay attention to the 6 issues that we identified.
Okay, is that a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt what I just said.
Okay. Is there a second on that?
I will second.
Is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Okay.
Real quick point of clarification, adopting it, Darren, as is or to be drafted under the letterhead of the mayor and the council?
I'll give the mayor the discretion whether she just picks up the language and puts it in a fresh letter or transmits the DRB letter with a transmittal letter of her own.
Okay.
Either way is fine with me.
Okay. Is there any other further discussion? Nate, are you satisfied with the answer that you got, or?
Marginally satisfied. I would prefer that the letter have that in there, but I'm not sure if that's changeable at this point.
But I think, Tom,
Tom, this
Tom,
and
you
this may
could
be.
say it in the meeting, right? I mean, then we don't have to change the letter.
Yeah, because
we commit to lead silver.
Thank you.
So we don't need to change the letter. We can just have, Tracy, you can, in your transmittal letter of the DRB letter, you can just acknowledge that
they commit to the
applicant agreed to lead silver.
We're required under the building permit, the other thing, we will be additive and go with lead silver, and we're happy to make that commitment.
Okay. We will I will put that in the transmittal letter to accompany the DRB letter. Okay. Is there any other discussion? Tom, was your hand up for a discussion?
I hope I didn't offend Connor the way I answered the parking question. And I'm uncertain what you're going to do about the FAR question that we have for you, which I guess maybe it's a separate motion or something to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, so we've been over this plan quite a bit, and all three versions of the parking, one of which was really driven by the DRB feedback, and I appreciate that you pulled that back and increased the commercial space. I am most in favor of 3 decks of parking, and the way you've described how you would manage it. The level 2 parking would be private key fobbed, dedicated to your residents or commercial tenants. Your cellar level would be private key fobbed, again, dedicated to your residents and or commercial tenants. And the level 1 street level parking would be a public style of parking. It would bring a benefit to the wine and company, which we already know is very successful, and that is wonderful. And Gelateria and all the other businesses that are going in there, their success is wonderful, except for when it comes to some parking issues. And so by having that ground level of parking, it alleviates that. It also is what's called for in the sector plan. The sector plan calls out a need for a parking district or shared parking that can help to promote redevelopment. And that's what in TC19 is Summit and Knowles all the way up to Summit and Howard. And so what I think we don't want to see is every single one of these little slivers of land parcels, these individual parcels, having to accommodate and provide their own parking. And here, because you have a large amount of that TC19 block, we have the opportunity to achieve that in this project. And so I am most interested in that 3 levels of parking. You happen to be most interested in a ZTA, an FAR swap. I would be happy to propose a trade. I would be, I think the ZTA, you've heard us already talk about it. I'll state my own position. I think there should be more flexibility. I think the sector plan also calls out for more residential housing and a diversification of housing to mean apartments, as opposed to the overwhelming amount of single family homes that we have in the town of Kensington. This project accommodates that. It also accommodates 25% of them being MPDUs. I think those are all good. It's also a good and proper mix of commercial to retail and is a truly mixed use development. I would, if we want to put that question out there, yes, I would be more than happy to discuss a zoning text amendment that would flip the C and the R values in exchange for commitment to do 3 levels of parking.
Do you want to do a separate, we have a motion on the table right now.
Yeah, sorry. I've screwed up your procedural order.
That's all right.
Yes, do we want to vote on this first motion?
Or do Darren want to withdraw it and add it to, I guess the question would be, Bridget and Nate have not had an opportunity to state how they feel about what that proposal is. So I want to give them an opportunity to ask a question, because I can't expect them to support something they're just maybe hearing right now. Mm-hmm. So do you want to vote on the project in general, Darren, or do you want to withdraw and then we start again?
I don't mind withdrawing if we want to go back to this aspect of it.
Okay.
I would prefer to hear Tom's response.
Okay, Tom, you want to respond to what the motion has been withdrawn? Tom, do you want to respond to what Connor just asked you?
Bob Kite, what is the current schedule for the application to be approved with park and planning staff?
Current schedule right now, if we say what we're shooting for, is DRC like October 13th and planning board January 21st.
Okay. So our request would be that it be concurrent. So that when we get to the planning board in January, that the ZTA is there as well. And so there's a schedule aspect to our request because we don't want to get to the planning board and then have to defer the planning board hearing for the ZTA or vice versa. So this is a bit of a more complicated answer, but so there's a schedule as well as, you know, the management aspect of it. Just to be clear, we don't know, for instance, we've talked to the people at Knowles Manor. Should someone want to rent spaces from us from Knowles Manor, we would welcome that revenue. And we would certainly like to be able to rent some spaces on the middle level to our commercial tenants, for instance. So there's a level of complexity, and so I think we don't need to get through every little detail now, but I think we would want the ability to charge, even though they're public spaces, on that middle level to the tenants and the marketplace. What do you think? What do you all think about that?
Well, I'll jump in. I am willing to work with you over the next 3 months or 4 months on how many spaces on the middle level are, you can rent to a Knowles Senior or one of your commercial tenants, or allocate to the wine bar. I would just like an assurance that middle level is part of the package, and that as we turn our efforts to pursuing a ZTA to swap the density, that you are working with us on allocating those spaces rather than determining whether those spaces will exist, because maybe you're only going to go 2 levels of parking.
Completely understand, respected, and agreed. Let me say on that first level, there's tandem spaces. So I'm talking about the middle level. It's interesting that they're tandem. I think DVA was just trying to be, the geometry is what the geometry is. It's just math. And so we ended up getting tandem spaces. Now the tandem spaces is good on the upper level for the 2-bedroom units. We could rent it or storage, but up here, I think it's actually fairly good for the wine bar employees. So
I'm willing to move forward without a concrete agreement tonight as to how many spaces and how many tandems. I'm willing to go forward on a good faith measure of, between public spaces and spaces that maybe the town would have control over, and then spaces that you would have control over. I'm simply saying that if we are going to put a full force effort to achieve a ZTA for this one site, that we have an understanding that there will be a 3rd level of parking. Because one of the things that I hear for every single project that has come before the town is that the parking is inadequate. And then the other thing I hear constantly throughout town is that people don't always participate in the process as it's evolving. They use hindsight and come to us and say that something was a missed opportunity. And so when we have an opportunity here to achieve parking that benefits not just your building, but and not just your business next door, but businesses and resident needs in the entire vicinity, I don't want that to be a missed opportunity. I want to pursue it, and I want an undertaking for it. We have a project across the street, Knoll Senior Apartments, where they parked about half this number of spaces that they had units. And that doesn't even account for visitors or employees. And we had concern from residents in the area that those excess parking needs would be filled on residential streets, or that people would be circling the block to find a space. Here, you seem to have the ability with this project in providing 3 levels of parking to offer visitors or possibly even residents to the Knoll Senior Apartments reliable parking. So no longer would they be circling the block through some of the residential streets, no longer, and they would just know those are the spaces to go to. So rather than looking back with regret at a missed opportunity, I'm looking to seize this as an opportunity to address a need that we face with every single project. I'm done.
Okay. Bridget or Nate, do you have any questions regarding the additional 3rd layer of parking and flipping the FARs between commercial and residential?
No.
We can't hear you, Nate.
Nope, now you're on mute, Nate.
Okay, sorry. Just to make sure I understand, Connor's proposal was to in order to get our support for the zoning text amendment, that there would be some guarantee of public parking with going with the 3 levels. Is that correct? Is that how?
Yes, and I'll reiterate it with Darren's condition is, yes, for our support for a ZTA to flip the C and the R values, that at this point, all that Tom and his group are doing is they are agreeing that they will build 3 stories of parking, and that over the next couple of months, as we're working to get the ZTA, we'll work out a plan for the level 1 is what it's called, but the ground level, to determine what the makeup of those spaces will be. The portion that will remain with the developer, they can lease them out, and the portion that would be dedicated to a public use.
Okay, good. All right, so do you want to do it as 2 motions, or do you want to do it all together? Might be cleaner with 2 motions, I think.
So the ZTA will require a resolution at a future council meeting, so you might want to separate them.
I would propose a motion to support the project, and Tracy, for you to forward the DRB letter with your own transmittal letter that mentions lead silver as a commitment at this meeting.
Okay.
And then for tonight, I would just propose a straw poll of the council for whether we should pursue a ZTA in anticipation of the 3rd level of parking and further negotiations.
And we do a resolution, prepare a resolution for next month. Okay, so we put the motion back on the table, so we will need a second regarding the support of the project, supporting the letter that the DRB has written, including a transmittal letter from me, which will include specifically that they have agreed to do the lead silver. So is there a second?
I will re-second.
All right, thank you. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Bridget, I can't see you. Did you aye?
You're mute, but give us a thumbs up.
I'm getting there. Yeah, aye.
We are.
All right, so that's unanimous. Thank you.
That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, do you want to make your second motion?
So we're not a motion because it hasn't been on the agenda, but I want to take a straw poll of the council to figure out whether we should, because, and in this, what we're talking about doing is we're talking about laying some groundwork. We're going to start with talking with planning staff. We're going to then talk with our District 1 County Council member, Andrew Friedson, and basically do a full force effort to pursue a ZTA on behalf of this project. So, but I'm not looking for a formal action here because it's not on the agenda, and there's been no public notice. So I would just like a straw poll of members of the council to see whether they support
Essentially, you want to direct staff to look into drafting a resolution for a ZTA change.
Okay.
And that would be specific to all of TC19, correct? Which is where this building is.
I thought you said it was specific to the site.
That is.
That's what I just want a clarification.
Okay.
Yeah. Just for this site.
For this site?
Yes. So.
Well, if I may be clear, it would be the wine bar site and the Summit Avenue site, the two of them.
Okay, and I think what we need is some flexibility in the next month until the next meeting, because I don't want to take a straw poll among us and then find out that the ZTA has to apply to the entire TC19 or cannot apply to the TC19. So I want to leave it at a general level. Again, this is non-binding. This is just sense of everybody involved. So I would support going forward on this basis, and I'm just interested in.
Okay. Bridget? Is she supporting?
Yeah, I support it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I don't know what else to.
That's a unanimous support in continuing to look at this, the ZTA. Great, on this property. All right.
And I will get going tomorrow on that.
Thank you all very much. Thank all the designers that have listened to this.
Yes, thank you for your team who came, and really appreciate you taking the time. I know you've met with us lots of times, and I'm sure you'll be meeting with us again. So,
thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, not to zip through the rest because everything is important that's on our agenda, but it is 9:20, so let's see if we can get through this in a reasonable amount of time. So number 4, Nate, you all met. Do you want to briefly give an update?
You're going to kill my Thrive Montgomery?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see D. I'm sorry. Or B.
I've only got 70 slides, about an hour worked up on Thrive Montgomery. No.
Switching to
I will bring it up. I will show my.
You froze. He doesn't.
Tracy, this is a sign from God.
So, what? Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Are we?
Yeah, you're sure.
Are you? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear.
Okay. All I want to bring up at this moment with Thrive Montgomery, this is the new general plan that is in the works. It's the 30-year plan, replacing the last general plan, which was like 1964. It's in draft right now. We talked about the PowerPoint presentation that they presented or they sent to the town at last month's meeting. I've had discussions with other councils and with Matt's help, the other town managers, just to try and understand how this plan is proceeding. And there's a little bit of concern from many of the municipalities, just that this is a huge plan. And it has something like 218 priorities and different goals. And we haven't had a lot of time to digest it. The current schedule for this is that it would go up to the planning board for their comment and review in October of this year. It would eventually go over to the county council in March, April of next year. There is discussion amongst other municipalities on several are sending letters to the county council, just asking for a delay, asking that they postpone the adoption schedule by a year. And so I just wanted to present this to the council to say, you know, there are the housing aspects, the connectivity and transportation. There are also parts that I think are completely missing in detail, and there is supposed to be a implementation guideline document out by the end of this month or early next month. For instance, we have a large historic district in the town of Kensington. There really isn't a lot of information in Thrive Montgomery 2050 about how some of their initiatives in their new missing middle housing policies would work, inside of or adjacent to historic districts. And so those are areas that I think warrant more investigation and participation by our council with planning staff. And so I don't know if anybody's got questions or if people were interested in having staff draft a letter, just, asking that the adoption schedule be postponed, especially in light of the fact that with COVID, there has not been as much outreach as was initially planned.
So what's the plan going forward? Are you still planning on meeting with the town managers or the council? Or
yes.
What?
So myself and members from a couple of other municipalities are going to put together kind of an information deck, because what's interesting is there is a handful of people, council members within different jurisdictions that have awareness of this, but there are entire municipalities that had not heard of Thrive until Matt and I started talking, and Matt started to reach out in the town managers forum. And so what we wanted to do is help create an information session. The county did do quite a bit of outreach. Their outreach was, they did some digital outreach. They did a lot of community at events outreach. It does seem that one area that they could have harnessed and done more of was directly in these 19 municipalities that the county has. I know they sent us a flyer and they sent us a PowerPoint, but it would have been helpful to get more information. But part of that's just that this is in draft. So to answer your question, we're going to do a presentation just to other county, to municipal town councils to help them understand it, and then determine if there's a collective voice among us as far as delaying, requesting any further delays.
Okay, I do think more of a collective voice speaks louder. That would be my personal opinion, especially with our county council person representing most of the municipalities in Montgomery County. So does the council have any other questions regarding Thrive?
The only thing I'd leave then is take a time when you have a chance in the next couple of months, and please, read it, look it over. It's both vague and detailed at the same time, but this is the general plan that all sector plans and master plans will be adopted against, and the policies that are put within these are the ones that is the future direction that the county is going. And some of the things that they're talking here, in my opinion only, may strip some of the controls that municipalities have away from us, especially around some of the land use, setbacks, style of housing, what can go in. And so I think it's absolutely worthy of everybody's time and attention to give it a read.
Okay, thank you. Can you stop sharing?
Yes.
Is there anyone on the council that has a quick question? Anyone from the audience? Don't see any waving hands. Anybody in the chat? Connor, can you see?
I do not. None.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Nate, you're up. Sorry.
Can you hear me?
No.
Okay.
Quietly.
Barely.
One second. There you go. Okay. So you can hear me, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Okay. So I'll try to be really quick. We held a first working group session of the pedestrian and bicycling access and safety working group. It was myself and Anne-Marie Turner agreed to co-chair, and she graciously offered to continue to co-chair with me this informal working group. The first session was really meant to to brainstorm really what we wanted the group to be, the structure and function of the group. And we had 10 participants, 10 community members right here from Kensington who participated. There are a few others that weren't able to make the meeting, but are interested in continuing to engage on this. So it was a really positive meeting, a lot of productive discussion. The one thing that we all agreed was that we want to get stuff done and not use the working group as a sounding board only. So I wanted to just give 2 or 3 points that we discussed and just give you a sense of where we're headed in the next month. So on the structure and the function of the working group, everyone agreed that we would start off by meeting monthly. And looks like the next meeting is probably going to be on October 15th. We haven't confirmed it yet. Matt, I'll send you details when we have it confirmed with the group. And then we set out kind of an idea that we wanted to accomplish things over the next year or so. And the discussion, which was the predominant part of the meeting, lasted about 45 minutes, and everyone had a chance to kind of say what they thought, what the group should be. And of course, there were specific recommendations that were raised during the meeting about, people were concerned about this particular stretch of Connecticut or this intersection, but there, those were really important comments, but that really wasn't the crux or the majority of the discussion. Was more on the strategic points. What can we do to make it a better and more welcoming pedestrian and bicycling experience here in the town? So 1 or 2 just to flag or highlight some ideas. The first was that we agreed to do a prioritization exercise where we would take all these ideas and kind of rank them or evaluate them based on certain criteria. How long will it take to implement? Who has jurisdiction on the decision? How complex is it? So we'll go over that during the next meeting, and 2 people have already volunteered to take that forward. And then another thing that would probably be in the more immediate term would be to do to get baseline information by doing something called a walkability audit to gather, go out in the community, have a short training with some of the community members and town members, and just say, it's basically a scoring system where you get the data, see what gaps and needs are there, and get an overall kind of systematic view of what the town looks like from a pedestrian perspective. There's also a strong sense that in order to sustain some of the things we might want to pursue, we might need to think about seeking grants at the county and the state level, even regional level, to support the work, perhaps, for example, hiring an expert to do something. And overall, the idea is that this group will help to get the council and the town ahead of issues on pedestrianism and walking and bicycling, and feed into ongoing county and state processes. There are 2 things going on in the county right now: the Complete Streets Design Guide and the pedestrian master plan is happening right now. And I've spoken with the contact point for the pedestrian master plan, and he's very keen to work with us and figure out where we can have synergies between our two efforts. So the only last thing I would say before wrapping up is a public service announcement. If you haven't seen it, I think everyone on the town council and therefore you've gotten this email from the state, but October is called Walktober. It's the state's promotion of walking and pedestrianism in the county, or in the state, and the county I think has some activities around it. So that's being done by the Maryland Department of Transportation, and there are essentially 4 webinars each, more or less every Thursday in October, where you can attend and learn about how to kind of walk the talk on making a more pedestrian-friendly environment. And then there's a specific day called Walk Maryland Day, which is the Department of Health for the state is promoting walking. We should walk every day, but in particular that day too. So we think that we'll probably try to organize these walking audits or the walkability audits sometime later in October after our second meeting, so that it aligns with this Walktober event. So that's about it. Thank you.
Nate, there's opportunities like the Walktober and then the other event that you mentioned to forward those links to Carrie Ann. our communications person, and she can include them in upcoming e-blasts.
Okay, we'll do.
As opportunities. So be sure to forward her those, that information. The one thing I was reading your notes, and I did want to let you know that the signs about the no bikes at Town Hall, we're actually already working on that, getting rid of that. So we're gonna. I actually talked to Jamie Keller, who I know is on your in the working group, and we talked about that, taking that off.
Great.
So we're going to do that. Another thing that you could help me out on, we actually have a bike rack for Town Hall. I couldn't find it. I looked for it in the garage, Matt, and I don't know where it is, but I would love help in finding the right location at Town Hall to place it. So maybe that's something I can turn over to you. I think it will require a little bit of concrete being put in somewhere, but I don't want the crew to think of the right space. I think it would be better coming from somebody who wants to park bicycles.
We can ask the working group during our next meeting where they suggest doing it.
And that would be great. And actually, Matt can let you know what kind of bike rack it is. I think it's one of the, is it a hoop or one of those?
Yeah, it's Nate, I'll pass along the drawing of it. So
Okay,
you'll have the
thank you.
dimensions and everything. So
That would be good, because we really, I've sat with Jason a couple of times, and it either required moving benches or it was just always going to be in a tripping area. So it was just, it wasn't as easy as it sounds.
Okay.
Another thing I noticed, and because previously on the council, we weren't really enthusiastic with the bike share stuff, mainly because of the bikes being littered throughout town. I know that was brought up. So I think that's kind of a big selling point for the council, since except for you, everybody on the council wasn't too enthusiastic about adding bike shares.
So
just mainly
bike share, I actually called DC Bike Share after that. What was that, like a year ago?
Okay, right.
And I asked, could we get a dock system for the bikes? And they were like, no, we're not interested. It would not work with me at all. So I really tried. I was like, yeah, what can we do to get this one concession? They're just like, yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, when Medina was going in, one of the things that they were asked to do was to put in a bike, and we told them no, we didn't want it. And a lot of that was because quite a few residents just don't like to see bikes laying on a corner somewhere, and so it just becomes bike trash, like the stupid Safeway baskets, left at the creek. Now you're going to have bikes and scooters. So I'm not saying I'm against it. It's going to be a sell that's going to be. I
mean, I think if you worked with us a little bit, like just a little.
I'm curious why they said
the reaction.
Yeah, me too. Because to your point, Bridget, because Tracy, I will flat out say it was me that made many of these comments. My experience working in Arlington every day is the dock stations are wonderful. The only problem is the supply and demand. And when you have a really popular station, you can show up and there are no bikes, right? And when you have a station, off of the bike, you got nowhere to dock. The dockless bikes and dockless scooters are absolutely just urban littering in Arlington. They're just strewn about everywhere, in the roadway, in the sidewalks, in handicap spaces, in parking garages, in lobbies to building. It's just come to the point where COVID, I've noticed a couple of building employees selectively taking the scooters that they're finding and they're putting them in a location where they really can't be found again. And that's what I would like to prevent, is just the dockless type that, in fact, there was a Lime scooter that sat behind Safeway on Armory Avenue for like 9 months. I mean, it just sitting there. And I think it was originally in the parking structure, and I think it got repurposed outside, and it just, that's the blight that I'm wishing to avoid. Docked stations, I'd be intrigued with.
So anyway, that's
Yeah.
just a heads up that it wasn't a particularly popular thing. So
Yeah, and that's just one of the probably 6 of the ideas that we'll go
no,
over.
I understand that. I'm
Yeah.
not sure I spent a lot of time on that one.
No, it wasn't a lot of time on that one,
Okay.
but we will report back when we have some more concrete ideas about priorities.
Good, thank you.
Sure.
Does anybody from the audience have a question regarding the working group? Okay, I don't see hands. Any chat comments?
Nothing in the chat. I'll give it a second in case somebody's typing, but
People are getting tired.
I did. Okay. All right, so we're going to move down then to number 5, the town election subcommittee. I'd kind of like to spend time on this. So I'm wondering if we should postpone it till next month, because I think it's a, did everybody get a chance to read it? I mean, Matt, what is the next step on this? Would it be a public hearing?
Well, it depends on what the council wants to decide to do. Any charter change would require a public hearing. We'll have to advertise. So we're probably looking at a 2 to 3 month process once the council provides a direction. So.
So, and we don't have to dwell on it tonight. Nate and I sent out a sort of compilation of charter and code provisions that affect our elections. And I'm sure you read them carefully. But then there's also a list of options for us to use going forward. And so we can't really draft a charter amendment without getting a sense from the council and the mayor of what options you're leaning towards. And so we don't need to have a belabored discussion tonight, but we really would like guidance from people, and it's not exclusive, but I sent out, 5 options and then 3 other considerations. Where's your heart? Do you want to just ignore the issue and hope we don't have another pandemic and we have a vaccine by next June? Do you want to scale back the charter provisions that are very specific and that kept us from having a process for a mail-in election this last election? Do you want to just transition to fully mail election? All of these have costs and benefits, but we just need sense from the 3 of you that aren't actively breathing this.
Well, why don't you, like we did on the, I guess the Thrive, do you want to give us a deadline in which to get you back questions or directions in which we want to take it? And then we'd be in a better position next month. I mean, we still have time. I mean, I'd like to be done by January, if possible. So if we do October to confirm the direction, we can introduce something in November, have a hearing in December, and we would be able to approve it in January.
I'd say in that case, if you would send any questions to us by the end of the month, we could probably prepare in time for the next council meeting.
Okay.
So, Maren?
Yeah. Does that work for you all?
Yes. Real quick, just because I had one item that I had identified, not sure how far we were going to discuss this, but it was when Darren and I first did it for the emergency election last year, one thing that was moving around a lot is there's all these dates, but they're not specific dates. They're like the 3rd Monday preceding, the 5th Monday preceding. Not to ask you guys to do additional work, but can you pull those charter provisions out that have dates and maybe put up together a calendar? Because if we're changing things, to make sure that we have the ripple effect. The one that I highlighted was, for instance, if we keep a supplemental registry, right, for let's say 16 and 17-year-olds or non-US citizens, if those are provisions that we take up and we have to keep a supplemental registry, you know, that's the burden is on Susan to do that. And one thing that Darren and I found out was the date that people could come into town hall and register was almost the last day. It was like the last Thursday in May.
Mm-hmm.
And then we still had to have ballots produced, mailed, and try and get them back. It was our own doing. It's just the way the charter was set up. And so if we're going to change things, I just want to make sure we're looking at the calendar of all the dates that are impacted.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. So it sounds like if we can get that back to them by September 30th. Does that work? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Does the audience have any questions regarding this? Okay. I don't think we're seeing anybody. All right, good. Okay, from the town manager and staff, I think we just have one question.
Our October meeting is scheduled for Monday, October 12th, which is Columbus Day. In the past, we've held council meetings, although Town Attorney Ferguson has noted that she would like to be at the council meeting if we decide to take up Resolution R-07, which was the donation from Knowles Manor. So if we decide to bring that back for the October council meeting, Town Attorney Ferguson is not available that day, the 12th.
Yeah, she meets with another
Chevy Chase Village, yeah.
So we could meet on the 13th, Tuesday the 13th. No? I now have you in my picture.
No, I can't.
Okay, fine. Let's see. We could make it the first Monday, which doesn't give us a lot of time, or we could make it the third Monday, the 19th.
I don't have a preference.
I can do either
I
of
can
those.
do either.
Okay, Nate, can you do the 19th?
Yeah, I can do either. I think yeah.
The 19th is good? Okay, so Matt, we'll do it on the 19th. That gives you guys more time for the election stuff. But then the following meeting comes up really fast.
Yep.
Okay. Town meeting. Can you make sure that Carrie Ann gets that information, or you change it on the website, please?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Anything else, Susan? Do you have anything?
Councilmember Bartram, did you want me to note about the radar recording device or mention the traffic committee meeting?
Oh, yeah, I guess we're in that place. So yeah, why don't you talk about the radar data recording device, and then I'll just do a really quick rundown of the traffic committee meeting.
Okay, so our existing radar recording device is no longer usable. The software has expired its existence. So we went ahead and purchased a solar-powered radar recording device, which is similar to what we used to have, but it has a few different options, including showing vehicular speed. It actually was $2,000 cheaper than the current system that we use. We should have it in-house in about 3 to 4 weeks. And it's mobile and solar powered, and we'll be able to place it around town to capture data.
Great. Okay, thank you. Darren, did you want to say anything else about the traffic committee meeting, you or Bridget?
Well, no, we're going to take up two resolutions at the end of the meeting that came out of the traffic committee meeting. The other things they're just continuing things that we're working on at the traffic committee. We are working on a traffic study or an engineering study for the permanent installation of the plug at the end of Farragut Avenue. We are continuing to evaluate enforcement priorities for our police staff. There are a couple of petitions for traffic measures that are at some stage of development. One for a barricade on Oberon, which is, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, but it hasn't even been really started. And then the second is the Kent and Kent and Wake traffic restrictions, where the traffic committee agreed that given COVID concerns, it could be more done by email and more virtually.
Okay.
I think that's it.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, we went into town manager and staff, but I do also have a couple of small announcements. Ann Lichter and I have set up a racial justice meeting on Sunday, September 20th at 7:30. We have about 20 people who have signed up to attend a Zoom meeting. If you're interested, you can email me. I'll get you in touch with Ann Lichter, or you can contact her directly. And she'll send you it's a very short questionnaire about your interest, and then we'll follow up with the Zoom information. So it's not too late to sign up. You can just send me an email and I'll forward it on to Ann. Also, Jenny Cakes is closing this week. This is her last week. I spoke to Jenny and about possibly coming to a town meeting so we can thank her, and she's exhausted and really declined. She just said it was just too uncomfortable and she just didn't want to do it. So we are working on a proclamation with her husband, and we hope to have that, and we'll just do that kind of privately and forward it to her and thank her for her time and all the service that she's had to the town. So I don't want to make her uncomfortable. So, but we're excited that Potomac Sweets, which is a European bakery, it will be moving into that space after Jenny's done. So we'll still have a bakery in town, completely different, but it'll be nice that we'll still have that opportunity to thicken our waistlines. Also, Pink Dots is moving into the Sage location on Howard Avenue. That's exciting. And, you know, I am thrilled that people are still willing to invest their time and their resources in opening small businesses. So we're very fortunate that so many have decided to do that. And I also want to just mention that Jubilee, which is a foundation here in the town that supports people with disabilities, they had a nice little parade through Warner Circle Park today. It's a direct support professional day. And so they had, it was a kind of a virtual parade and a thank you for all their professional support people that take care of people with disabilities. So they invited the Brookwood girls to come over. One of the teachers lives on the circle. And so they were there to join in on thanking the people. So it was a really nice event. So anyway, and that's it for me. Bridget, do you or Nate have any additional things you want to add before we move on?
Trail camera? You should talk about the trail camera. I'm
sorry?
You should talk about the trail camera, not me.
Oh, the trail camera. Yes, you're right. Okay. Yeah, we had some pranksters, to be nice. They put in 3 jugs, not the little jugs, the big jugs of Dawn dish detergent, as well as a big jug of Arm & Hammer laundry detergent in the fountain. Not this past weekend, but the weekend before, and created a huge bubble mess. So the crew, or Jason, came over on Saturday and emptied it. And, you know, unfortunately, besides not being good for the fountain, it also, all of those bubbles go down into the storm drain and end up in Silver Creek. So now you've created an environmental issue as well, which is so, I don't think people understand the consequences of some of their pranks. So we are closing down the fountain for the rest of the year. We're going to go ahead and winterize it. was actually this heavy rain that we had last Thursday was put I think it was 400 gallons of water into the fountain. So, which was actually helpful, not for the people who got water in their basements, but it helped to clean out the residue that was left in the fountain. So we did add some salt and vinegar to help keep that down. So we're going to go ahead and winterize it. We're going to upgrade the pole lighting in the park, and also install some trail cameras. So it'll be under surveillance when it reopens next spring. But it's kind of a shame that you know, the jokesters do not understand that there's consequences to their actions, and it's sad because a lot of people like to come into the park and enjoy it. And so we're just closing it down a little early this year until we can put in these hopefully helpful, more light and cameras to protect the fountain. So anything else? Okay, great. Okay, well, let's move on to public appearances. If there's anything that you wish to discuss that's not on the agenda, and I see Jack's hand. So Jack, please unmute yourself and let us know what's on your mind.
Okay, I have two questions.
Okay.
First, I'm very glad to see that someone bakery will take over Jenny Cakes, and that someone is succeeding Sage. The question is, do you know what's happening with the tea room? The other day when I walked by, it still said that the whiteboard said tea room is out of business.
Yes, I talked to Dennis McCurdy, who is someone in the know who does, you know, real estate and owns things in the town. And there was actually, he believes that someone has taken a lease on it and plans to open, I believe they said they're Argentinians, so they'll have different menu, but hopefully they plan to reopen in that space. So
that's very good to hear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is missed. So right now with the social distancing, it's, you know, it's kind of hard in that tiny space, but they can certainly do carry out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Question
anyway.
number two. I would like to ask what, if anything, the council has done about the $100,000 from the Knowles Manor agreement settlement.
We haven't done anything with that yet. We continued the discussion from last month. We didn't put it on for this month because we knew we had a lot on the agenda. So we will probably take it up again. We have, I believe, 6 years to make a decision. So we're not in a big rush, but we will address it again more than likely in October. But okay. I think at 10 o'clock now, I don't think we need one more thing on the agenda.
No. That was the answer. The question is what happened.
Yeah, it's
and
just
the answer is nothing.
Nothing.
Next month.
Oh, right. Okay. Thank you, Jack. Anyone else? Joe, you have your I see you waving. So.
Thank you, Mayor Furman. Yes, indeed. Mm-hmm. I was going to ask about Resolution 07/2020, but Mr. Gaffey beat me to it. My other question has to do with where do we stand with restoring the faux brick pavers on the crosswalk in front of the entrance to Kensington Cabin Park. That was something I think that the town manager said we would be getting done sometime soon, and it was about 6 months ago. And I'm just wondering where matters stand with that, because it does speak to, among other matters, pedestrian safety.
Matt, I know you have an answer.
So we have the quotes for the brick pavers. We are waiting on a number of other projects that we can move forward with. So they will be included with those projects with St. Paul Park. There's some resurfacing there. I'm hoping that we can have that done October, November. I'm not certain yet, but that's our goal. So.
Okay. Is there anything else that's holding it up other than seeking the bids and so forth?
Just getting the contractor in here and getting the pricing on a couple other projects that they're going to do at the same time. So we have a storm drain issue we need to take care of. We have the pricing ready for St. Paul Park. There's going to be some resurfacing on the surface lots there as well. So it's just kind of organizing everything at this point. So.
And will this contract be sent out for competitive bidding?
It's part of the contract that was approved last year. So it's still part of the contract that was approved last year by the council. And then once that's complete, then we'll have to bid a new contract.
So I'm a little confused. This is new work, but it's under an old contract?
The crosswalks are included in the contract from last year that was approved for Kensington Parkway.
And there's other work that's being folded into
Correct.
This old work, but that's new work.
Yep.
Okay. Hey, and finally, Mayor Furman, thanks again. I just wanted to say I was pleased to see on the town listserv that the south side of Kensington now has a council member living among us. And I know it's temporary, but I'm really glad to see that we do have a town council member on the south side of Kensington. It's been a while since we've had someone who's actually lived among us, and that's Council Member Crimmins, and I know he's going to be experiencing firsthand some of the issues that we've been talking with you about periodically, including sediment runoff from construction sites and illegal turns at various intersections, as well as cars running through stoplights and stop signs. So anyway, I'm sure he'll have some firsthand information to share with the council about these issues that
Thank you for
doubled us
me,
for a long
Joe.
time.
I've seen you nearly every morning that I've lived there, and so if you've got a bug in your ear, just wave me down and we'll chat.
I think you're there till what, January or February? How long?
End of February. End of February is the lease, and then it could be March. It could be the middle of March. It could be the middle of February. I will know in the next 5 weeks if we can get the thing framed out and a roof over it. Then my contractor tells me the moment he has a roof over it, he can give me a pretty absolute timeline. So he's telling me he thinks he's ahead of schedule. I'm telling him I will wait until the roof is up to qualify that statement.
So Joe, we'll see if you have it there until Easter. So
Mayor Furman, it's like 3 hours into this meeting, so loopy ideas, I guess, are inevitable. But it's almost enough to want to divide the town into precincts and have representatives from separate sections of town. I mean, almost enough to think about that as
I do get concerned that you have 3 people on the council right now that are within a block of each other practically. So I don't know whether that says that certain people are more motivated for public service in an area of town, but it's certainly would be preferred to have someone from every sector of town.
So
but
geographic diversity.
We are elected to represent the entire town, not just our own streets. So
I know that, but it's geographic diversity is not a bad idea.
I don't disagree with you on
and you're talking about 3 members of council who are living on the east side, I guess, within
the west side.
West side. Okay, great.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks.
Well, thank you very much. Anyone else? I don't see any waving. And anyone have a question?
There's a question in the chat, and it's about going back. So I will just quickly answer it. There was a depiction of a bike lane that was in the Knowles, the flats at Knowles Station. That depiction is in there because the bike master plan indicates a divided bike lane along Knowles Avenue. So to David, to your question, that's why it's depicted there. It's part of the county's bike master plan.
Yes. Okay. Very good. Thank you. All right, so let's move on to ordinances, resolutions, and regulations. Matt, do you want to start us off?
Sure. Please note that the title slightly changed on resolution number R-08-2020. The town attorney made a couple different revisions to it. So it's a resolution of the mayor and council to accept the program open space grant POS 7107-15-715 and to override the bid process to authorize a contract with John Shore Landscaping for the removal and disposal of an existing pergola, existing concrete and existing mulch path, and installation and construction of a replacement pergola, boardwalk and brick path, and provision and installation of 2 benches in Clum Kennedy Park. In addition, you should have received some comments from the public with regards to ADA. I believe David is still on the Zoom call. If he would like to add anything to that at a later stage. But, the resolution is before you for adoption.
Okay, I would certainly let David participate, but I do want to address a couple of his concerns before. One is why we went with brick over concrete. The Greenscape Committee made the decision to go with the brick because of the historic, the Clum Kennedy's in the historic district, and also it is our garden park. So concrete just didn't fit in with that, and it does comply with ADA. It was funny that he brought up the stepping stones between the path and an area in which there's a seating area. And to be perfectly honest with you, the committee was so preoccupied with the path that we just overlooked that. And I was actually meeting with Shore last week, and I said, I don't know how we missed that, but can you add this to it, to the project? We have enough money in the grant to cover it. And so we are going to add that to include a brick path from the path itself up to the seating area, so that it will be ADA accessible to the public. So we have fixed that, and I see David has said he's good and doesn't need to add anything. So good. Does anybody else have any questions before the council makes a motion to accept? Okay, I don't think I see anything. So can we get a motion for resolution R08-2020?
Motion to adopt resolution, oh gosh, I don't have it up. What was it again?
R08-2020.
08-2020.
Okay, is there a second? Bridget, okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. That's unanimous. Okay, Matt?
Resolution number R-09-2020 is a resolution of the mayor and town council authorizing the town manager to enter into a memorandum of understanding with Montgomery County to install and maintain a mural along the Summit Avenue Bridge. Exhibit D was included with your packets to show the exact location, and to also enter a contract with the artist for the mural. The town attorney has also made a few revisions to the contract agreement that they'd like to send us back to Montgomery County. So the resolution would be adopted pending final approval of Ms. Ferguson.
And we've not had the design yet. This is actually, the bridge is going to be a nod to the Engar community, as well as part of the racial justice that we'll be working with the working group that we're putting together. So we will, the council will have an opportunity to see the design before it goes forward. So this is basically working with the county to allow us to do it, and then we'll go to the next step. But first step was just to get the county to let us do it. So since they own the bridge. So we will be back with the design. So do we have any questions from the council or the audience?
I have a small nitpick on R-09-2020. In the first whereas at the very bottom, the Summit Avenue over the CSXT, is that actually, isn't it just CSX? Okay, just Like I said, it was a nitpick. There's an extraneous T that can get removed.
Okay, we can get rid of the T.
Yep.
E. All right, anything else? Because I'm not sure if the county will like our resolution since we've changed their contract, so we may be back for this too. Okay, can I get a motion?
I move that we adopt resolution number R-09-2020 with the caveat of one edit to CSXT being changed to CSX.
Okay, is there a second?
Technically, there's more references to it in the document. So.
To every reference of CSXT being changed to CSX.
Okay.
And then my motion.
I second the motion.
You second it? Okay. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Bridget?
Aye. Sorry, I'm meeting.
Listen to you. What time it is? Okay, we have one more resolution, Matt.
Resolution number R-10-2020 is a resolution at the recommendation of the Traffic Committee to install a no parking zone between 10411 Dietrich Avenue and the ingress-egress apron at 3930 Knowles Avenue. In addition, it is to change what was previously 1 hour parking on that block of the 10400 block of Dietrich Avenue from 1 hour to 2 hour. It was the last location where 1 hour parking was allowed in the town. Just for note, the traffic engineer, Joe Cuccio, actually made these changes already. This is just for public record, so we have a traffic order on file.
This is housekeeping. So, yeah, so because I was like, what? These changes have already been made. So, any questions from the audience? Okay, could I get a motion to approve, to adopt?
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number R-10-2020.
Is there a second? Connor, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, great. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. I have to say, I'm not a big fan of Zoom meetings. Nice thing about them that when this is over and we all leave, we can all go right to bed. We don't have to. So, all right. Well, thank you very much for sticking this out. It was a very long meeting. I really appreciate it. So all I need is a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you all for who stuck it out. All right. Good night. See you.
Good night, everybody.
I noticed the Zoom meetings have a lot more people than the town council meetings in person.
They do, Jack. They do.
So
Absolutely.
it enhances community participation.
It does. All right. Thank you so much. All right. Bye-bye.